Welcome to Raiders on the Record, the podcast featuring Hastings High School athletics. I'm Athletic Director Trent Hansen. My colleague Tim Hanneberg and I work together to bring you the stories of Raider sports. We are thrilled to share conversations with the athletes, coaches, and alumni that represent Raider Nation. Check back weekly and be sure to share this podcast with your friends in the Raiders Network.
Ava McNamara is a 2023 Raider graduate. During her time at Hastings High School, she has participated on the girls' swim and dive team. Ava is a 5-time varsity letter winner. She was a state qualifier during her sophomore year and qualified for 4 different events at the state tournament during her junior year in the 200 medley relay, 100 fly, 200 free relay, and the 100 breaststroke. At the state tournament, Ava took second in the 100-meter fly. She is currently in her senior year and hopes to finish her year strong, meet her goals, and decrease her time. Ava has great advice for student athletes and talks about the great coaches and teammates she has been surrounded by during her career. Here we are with Ava McNamara. Ava, we always start at the beginning of someone's life, so let's hear about you growing up. Did you always live in Hastings? Did you guys eventually move to Hastings? Let's hear about your mom and dad. Any brothers, any sisters? Once again, let's hear about your life growing up.
Well, I've lived in the same house. I was born in Hastings, and I lived in the same house since I was born. I live with both my parents and my younger sister, Jada. She's in 10th grade.
Perfect. We also like to hear about the schools people attended. And if you could, when you're talking about those schools, if you can name any teachers, it doesn't have to be every grade, but maybe 1 or 2 teachers that really had a big impact on you from each school.
Okay. I started out at C's, I think, or Tilden. One of the two. I can't remember which one came first, and I don't remember any of my teachers at those schools. And then I went to McCullough, and one teacher I remember very specifically is Miss Brown. I don't know why I remember her, but I do. And then Miss Henning, she's my 4th grade teacher. And then I just went to the middle school. And then there's like a lot of teachers there. One I really remember is Mr. Hoffman. And then now I'm at the high school. So
Anybody here at the high school that's had a pretty big impact on you over the last couple of years?
Probably Mr. Corkish. Yeah.
Perfect.
He probably had the biggest impact.
Awesome. We then like to hear about your sports journey growing up. I typically like to stop people around 7th grade. So let's hear about the sports you played growing up. And like I said, we can stop about 7th grade.
Okay. Well, I've been swimming and diving, I guess, since like 5th grade. And then, so that's kind of what I've been doing for that.
Perfect. Any other sports you played growing up, or it was just all swimming and diving all the time?
No, I started out with gymnastics when I was very, very young. And then I went to t-ball and softball. And then I did that for like a couple years, like 4 or 5 years. And then I did dance for a year or 2, then diving for a year, and started swimming since then.
Perfect. Then we usually like to start in 7th grade, fall season. And if you could work your way through, so start in 7th grade fall, 7th grade winter, 7th grade spring, and talk about if you played a sport in each season, how you did in each sport, if you were brought up to a varsity level, or you played JV, or you're still at the middle school. Let's hear about what level you played on, and then any individual accomplishments. So if you're all conference, all state, or state qualifier, things in that nature. And then last thing, any team accomplishments that go along with each season as well.
Okay. I started, in 7th grade, I was still on the middle school team. And then in 8th grade, I was brought up to the high school team to swim for varsity. That year, I made sections. And then 9th grade, I made it to my first year of state. I didn't do too well, but I made it there. And then 10th grade was a really weird year. We had our section was split into 3 groups. We had 3 teams at each section. And then so I wasn't racing the people who I would have been racing to try to get to state. And so I ended up placing 4th at sections and top 2 go to state. So I wouldn't have made it that year in any individuals, but I would have made it in a relay. And then 11th grade, I made it to state in all four of my events. I took first at sections in three events and second in one of them. And then I ended up placing second at state in the 100 fly. And then this year, I'm hoping to make it to state. We'll see if I get there or not. But through like over the year for season wise, I have like 3 weeks off a year, kind of split out. I'll have like a week or two in August. And then in December, depends how long I take. I normally take about a week. And then about a week or so in April that I'll have off from swimming. Other than that, I'm swimming year round.
Wow. So you said about last year. Let's go into last year a little bit more. You said you qualified in 4 different events,
Hmm.
section champ in 3, second place in another. So let's hear about all the events that you made it to state in, and then you did say you took second in the 100-meter fly. So let's
Yeah.
just talk about the state tournament as well.
Okay, so I swam the 200 medley relay. I don't remember who was exactly on it for sure. I know Kendall Jenkins was, Josie Larson, me, and then I can't remember if it was Kira or Ashton maybe or Ireland. I don't is it Ireland's Aruba? I don't know for sure. But we took first in that. I did breaststroke, and then my next event that day would have been the 100 fly, and I ended up placing first in that. And then my next one would have been 200 free, and I have no idea who was on that relay. I do not remember it whatsoever. We took first in that, and then I swam the 100 breaststroke, and I took second in that at sections. And then for state, I swam all four of those events again with the same people. So, and I don't remember exactly what our relays and everything placed, or my 100 breast. I just remember the 100 fly.
Perfect. So you make it to state as a ninth grader. 10th grade doesn't go the best for you. I know that was
Hmm.
a kind of weird year with COVID and everything too. We get to 11th grade. What was one thing that maybe was a big reason why you made that kind of big jump from, state qualifier in ninth grade, maybe not the best, you're in 10th grade, and then boom, you hit 4 different events, state qualifier in 4 different events, and a state place winning in the 100-meter fly. So what do you think went into that kind of big jump from ninth grade to 10th grade to 11th grade?
Well, between a 10th and 11th grade, we moved to a different section. And so that was like a really, really big factor because if we hadn't had moved sections, the only thing I would have qualified for state in would have been the 100 fly. So that was definitely a big part. But I also feel like my mentality towards practice changed. Like I started working a lot harder and putting more effort in. I didn't just show up to swim, I showed up to work hard.
Why do you think that happened? So, you're talking about maybe it was age, maybe it was maturity. What kind of went into that? Just that the mind frame switch that happened in you.
Well, I met a lot, not met a lot more people on the team, but like I started talking to a lot more people on the team. And so showing up to practice kind of became more fun. It wasn't as much of like a chore to show up. And I was like, it kind of in my mind, I was like, I'm here. I might as well work hard. So I think that was kind of part of it also.
Perfect. So you're in 12th grade right now. We're kind of close to the end of the season. So let's give a recap about how your 12th grade year is going. And then once again, you kind of preview that the state or the section tournament's coming up. And
Mhm.
then once again, let's talk about maybe your goals for the kind of end of the season here.
Okay, so the season so far, it's had its ups and downs, but so does every season. My favorite thing about the season so far is we have a lot of middle schoolers in the team, like seventh and eighth graders. And so I love getting to practice early and like talking to them before practice and just kind of like seeing how their day went and everything. And then some for the end of the season would be just kind of what I did the year before, or yeah, the year before, just kind of place my events, drop some time because I haven't really dropped any time this season, and just I don't know, try to make the most out of my last few weeks of senior season.
Perfect. So once again, you're in your senior year right now. Like, let's walk us through what your college plans look like. If you plan on swimming in college, if you're getting recruited anywhere, if you don't plan on swimming, let's hear about what colleges you're looking at. If you got a major picked out, let's hear about all that good stuff.
Okay, so far I don't have an exact idea where I want to go to college. I'm talking to a few different ones in like one's Drexel in Philadelphia. I've had a few calls with them, and I that's it seems like such a nice school. I really like it. But I intend to swim in college, and then I want to study biomedical engineering. So those are my goals as of right now. They may change in the future. Maybe they won't.
That's great. So Mr. Hansen is our athletic director. One thing he always challenges us coaches on, he always asks us why we coach and why we got into coaching. So kind of flipping that around on you, Ava. Why do you play sports? What got you into swimming? You played a lot of sports growing up and you kind of
Mhm.
eventually landed on swimming. So why do you play sports?
I like to play sports just to challenge myself to be the very best that I possibly can. And I feel it's like a stress reliever, I guess. From school, I go to school and I go to practice right after. And if I have a bad day at school, it like swimming just I can focus on that and just completely forget about what happened at school that day or what was going on in my life at the moment. And so I feel like that's one of the big reasons that I like to do sports. It just kind of helps me like get stress away. I don't know.
Perfect. Next two questions I always ask our guests are very similar, but if you could think of two different things for, or one for each one, so two different
Mhm.
things, that'd be great. So, what do you think your best or your most rewarding experience has been so far as a high school athlete? And the second question, once again, kind of similar, but if you could come up with something different, that'd be great. What's been your favorite moment so far as a high school athlete?
Okay, for the second one, because I forgot what the first one was already. The
That's okay.
second one was last year at sections watching all of our relays get first. And so we come into this new section and we take first in all of our relays. We make a bunch of people to state and we ended up placing second. And so just like that, that was probably like my favorite moment, I guess.
Perfect. The first one was your best or your most rewarding thing so far as a high school athlete. So, and once
Yeah.
again, if you could think of something, it's very similar. That's okay if you can't think of anything though. But once again, your best or your most rewarding experience so far as a high school athlete.
I feel like my best would be placing second in the 100 flat state. Like I never expected that whatsoever, especially coming from the year before. I wouldn't even have made it to state in that event, and then I come in and place second. And so that was probably the most rewarding thing. Like I missed it was like a little bit mad at the moment because I'd missed the all American time, like consideration time, like point two. So that was a little bit kind of made me a little mad, but like thinking back on it, like that was really like rewarding to have done that and like all my hard work finally like paid off in swimming.
Perfect. Next thing, once again, Mr. Hansen always likes to ask us coaches about success and how we define success. So, once again, kind of flipping that around on you, Ava, how
Mm-hmm.
would you define success?
I think there's many different ways. One, just being you win, you drop time, you do all that stuff. But like, I like to try to think of it more as like, did I get better throughout the season? Whether it's did like one thing get better, did multiple things get better, did I change as a person for the better? I like to define that as success and just like anything helping me improve into my future and anything like that.
Awesome. Next couple questions, very impossible to maybe land on one person, but we
Okay.
really like to hear about the coaches and the teammates that people have been around. So the first one is a coach. So if you could think back throughout your whole career and maybe who the best coaches that you swam for or played a sport for, who do you think that best coach would be?
I'd probably say Kim Olson. She was my first swimming coach that made a huge impact on me. She taught me a lot of different things. One being if you're not 15 minutes early, you are late. And she just made me fall in love with the sport and held me accountable to show up to practice every day. Like if I wasn't there, she always asked me like why I wasn't there, and she would not take any excuses for why you weren't at practice.
Perfect. Same kind of question now but now for the girls that you swam with, or once
Okay.
again, other sports as well. So who do you think that best teammate is? And define this in many different ways. You know, it could be someone that was an older athlete that you kind of looked up to and you try to model your kind of behaviors or actions from them.
Mhm.
It could be that person that was like maybe the same age as you and you always battled with them and you guys pushed each other. It could also be that person that was maybe the shoulder to cry on, you could always go to and they always had good advice for you. So who do you think that best athlete is then in your life?
I say I had so many great people I've swum with throughout my years, And the first person that came to mind, her name was Kaya Riley. She is now in college, but she always was like motivated you. So if you're like halfway through the set, I don't know what the song is called for sure, but she'd sing the song. It's like we're halfway there,
Hmm.
and she always had like a bright personality, and she whether she wanted to be there or not, she never like showed up like disappointed. She always had just like the best attitude in the pool.
Perfect. The next one is pretty hard too. I know for swimming, it's kind of a really individual sport, and you're kind of just really competing against yourself until you
Mhm.
get to the section tournament. But we really like to hear about an opponent or maybe an event that really challenges you that you always look forward to playing in or swimming in. So once again, if you have a couple, that's great. But who is an opponent that you really like swimming against, or once again, an event that you really like swimming in?
Well, I like swimming with a lot of different people. Just it depends on the certain events. But one some events that really like challenge me that I have like a love-hate relationship with are distance events. So anything like a 500, 1000 or the mile, they I just don't like distance whatsoever, but I like pushing myself to see how fast I can go and how long I can keep that speed for. Normally it's not very long, but I like just seeing how like much I can improve on it even when I do swim it.
That's great. The last couple questions then for you, Ava. We always like to end with some advice for our parents, coaches, and student athletes. So the first one is advice for parents or coaches. So if you look back on your high school career and you can give parents or coaches a couple pieces of advice, what do you think it would be?
Well, personally for swimming, like if you add time and you don't do as well as you want to, like we don't want to hear like, oh, like what happened during that race or why weren't you good or like we don't it's very like disappointing because you already know you did bad and then when a coach or a parent is asking you like, oh, why didn't you swim like this or why didn't you do this way? It just kind of like solidifies the feeling of like you did bad in the race and like you can't go back and change it obviously, but it just makes you feel worse about what happened.
For sure. Now, if you could talk to those younger student athletes, so you're a senior right now, looking back on your career, if you could talk to those younger swimmers or just younger student athletes, if you could give them a couple pieces of advice, what do you think it would be and why?
Well, I probably have heard this a lot, but make the most out of every single practice, every single meet, every single time you're with your team. Try to make the most out of it because you don't realize how fast it goes until you're a senior in high school and you're like looking back. And like I've been on the team for 5 years for the high school team, and like, it does not feel like it was that long at all. And I just wish I would have like I don't know how to explain it. Like wish I would have like not taken for granted the practices that I had or the people I swim with because once they leave, you're most likely never going to swim with them again.
For sure. Ava, that's all the questions I got for you. So the last thing we always do is just turn the microphone over to our guest, which is you. So anything else you want to get off your chest, any questions I forgot to ask you, anything else you want to talk about, any shout outs you want to give, like I said, the microphone is yours and you can go for it.
Okay. I always like to give a shout out to all of the people I've ever swum with. Whether I talked to you a lot or whether I didn't, just thank you for swimming with me. Thank you for being in the pool. Thank you for showing up to practice. And then a big thanks to all my coaches that have coached me throughout swimming and making me the person who I am. And then we'll shout out for my teachers also for helping me progress my education throughout the years.
Awesome. Thanks, Ava.
Thank you.